Story 1. I, 32M, left my husband, 32M, a couple of weeks ago. He said I was being cruel and all about myself. I need advice on how to approach next steps, divorce. I've been married to my partner for about a year and a half, and we've been together for over 2.5 years. We met in the US, where we were both living at the time. About 6 months into our relationship, though, he faced expedited removal when re-entering the US after a vacation, which led to him being deported back to his home country and banned from returning to the US. This was incredibly traumatic for both of us, but we supported each other through it, and in a way, I think it brought us closer. I traveled back and forth to his country in Asia to visit him, and eventually we decided to get married and start working with an attorney to resolve his visa case. Last year, we got married, and I moved to his country while we waited for his visa to process. Looking back, I think it was a mistake to get married before living together, but we were in a stressful situation and made that choice under pressure. This year has been really tough. I've struggled with complex PTSD my entire adult life, and that's definitely shown up in our relationship. However, I've been doing a lot of therapy and self-work, always trying to take accountability when my issues affect him. I do think he has trauma of his own, and for the past year and a half, I've been encouraging him to seek therapy, but it wasn't until recently that he actually started seeing a therapist. The problem is, while I've been working on myself, he hasn't taken accountability for his actions or the way he's hurt me. Our sex life has been bad for quite a while, even though our relationship has generally been full of joy and playfulness. Early on, he blamed me for the issues, saying it was because I wasn't neat enough or organized enough with my things in our apartment. I've been actively working on this, and I've made significant progress. I have moderate executive functioning difficulties, but I've worked hard to improve. After this, he claimed I wasn't independent enough. But I was living in a foreign country where I didn't speak the language, so of course, I depended on him for some things, though I worked hard to become more independent as well. Still, our sex life didn't improve, and his mood seemed to worsen. A few months ago, I went through some intensive EMDR therapy, which completely changed my perspective and how I view myself. I felt happier, more confident, and have managed to resolve most of my triggers. But instead of this helping my relationship, it seemed to make things worse. He finally started therapy, and after a few sessions, he said something incredibly hurtful. He told me that his pattern in relationships was to date people he saw as broken because it made him feel needed. Now that I'm happy and independent, he doesn't feel needed anymore. He even said that seeing me so happy makes him unhappy. It was hard to hear, especially since just a couple of months ago, he was complaining that I wasn't independent enough. It felt like he had been avoiding me, and when he came home, his energy completely shifted. He even took a 2-week trip with a friend, leaving me behind during a time when we were supposed to be looking for a new apartment and preparing for his US visa interview. We ended up having to move out of our apartment without having a new place lined up, and he was rejected at his visa interview. After all of this, I told him I wasn't sure if I wanted to continue the relationship and that I needed space to think. We spent a couple of days apart in different rooms, and then I texted him to say I wanted to go to a nearby country, one that's easier for me to navigate while I clear my head. He asked to meet before I left, so I agreed. When we met, he was radiating negativity. He asked about our future, I told him that I didn't think we were in the same place anymore and that we weren't compatible. I told him that I felt really good about myself for the first time in a long time and that I wanted to live a happy life, not stay in a relationship full of conflict and someone who thought so little of me. He called me cruel for not wanting to stay and work on things. But to me, it felt like the foundation of our relationship was gone. He didn't want to spend time together or even sleep in the same room. We didn't communicate well, and there was no happiness left. I just can't be with someone who only wanted to be with me because he thought I was broken. Part of me feels guilty for not having the patience to stick around while he works through therapy, but another part of me feels like I made the right decision for my own well-being. I feel bad for hurting him, even though I know it was necessary. The longer we are apart, the more guilty I feel. We're married, so I need to figure out my next steps. If anyone has advice on how to approach things from here, I'd really appreciate it. Comment 1. Run and don't look back. Dude's basically been gaslighting you and using you as a doormat. Comment 2. Go back to the US. Being in your own country will clear your head. Comment 3. Sounds like you did the right thing. Stick to your choice, trust yourself, and good luck. Story 2. How do I, 32M, explain to my soon-to-be ex-husband, 32M, that his dreams to immigrate to the US are over? We're both married and living in Taiwan, where mutual consent divorce is relatively easy, but a one-sided divorce can be more complicated. To get a divorce on those grounds, one party must prove fault, and it can drag on for a while and become messy. I moved here to Taiwan and married him with the intent of helping him get his U.S. visa after he was denied entry in 2022 and given a 5-year ban. He had lived in the U.S. for 15 years, where we met. In December of last year, during his visa interview, he was hit with a lifetime ban due to misrepresentation. His only chance to return to the U.S. would be for an immediate relative to prove extreme hardship. 4 months ago, we separated. I made one attempt to reconcile, but he refused, even though I set a condition that he take accountability and work on himself. This week, I texted him, and we both agreed that we no longer wish to be together and that we've moved on. I politely asked for a divorce, but he said he still wanted to stay married so he could pursue his U.S. visa. His visa forms still have multiple years left in the processing time. I understand his situation is difficult, but it is no longer my responsibility. If this visa was truly important to him, he should have been a better husband. He's still refusing to let this go, though. I believe I have enough evidence to divorce him under the laws here and have spoken to attorneys. The process would take at least 12 months. How can I approach a conversation with him to get him to understand that he is not going to get a green card and encourage him to agree to a mutual consent divorce? Edit. Thank you so much to everyone for the clear advice and support. I've decided to move forward with the divorce and meet my attorney this week to begin the process. He wasn't a good partner, and it's completely absurd and unreasonable for him to ask anything of me, especially this. I'm done, and I'll be moving on with my life. Comment 1. You could waste 12 months trying to convince him to go with a mutual consent divorce and not be divorced in 12 months, or just start the divorce proceedings now and definitely be divorced in 12 months. Comment 2. Like you said, he's not longer your responsibility. He can still try to immigrate once his ban is lifted, but that's how problem. You just focus on the divorce in your life. Comment 3. he's probably not going to come to his senses. I would get the divorce process started ASAP. Comment 4. I don't think you need to talk to him. You need to contact the U.S. Embassy. Story 3. I'm afraid my husband is an alcoholic. In the beginning, his drinking was more occasional, when we went out for dinner, during holidays, or at social events. He didn't drink much at home. However, since the COVID shutdown, his drinking habits have shifted. It's not that he becomes mean or violent when he drinks, but it makes him really hard to connect with. When he's drinking, we can't have any meaningful conversation, and he just zones out on his phone the rest of the night. Aside from that, I'm concerned about the health risks, especially since he drinks so frequently. I'm not a regular drinker myself, only during social events or holidays, but I've tried to address his drinking with him multiple times. Every time, he gets defensive and says it's because I don't drink. A few years ago, he promised to limit himself to a 12-pack a week. But that promise didn't last long. It eventually grew to 15 beers a week, and now, on the weekends, he regularly consumes around 15 to 18 beers. We go out to eat 1 to 2 times a week, and he has 2 to 3 beers each time, so his total weekly beer intake is often between 17 and 21 beers. He tends to drink over a 3-day period, including the weekend. Lately, I've been suspicious that he's buying more than just the 15-pack he says he's getting and hiding it from me. Yesterday, I asked him how much he bought, and he told me it was just a 15-pack. But tonight, when I counted the beers in the fridge, I noticed there were 15 beers, plus 5 empty cans in the trash. I asked him again how much he bought, and he admitted that he had actually bought 2 12-packs. I told him once again that he has a drinking problem, and once again, he blamed it on the fact that I don't drink. Comment 1, yes. The hiding it is common among alcoholics too. Comment 2, yeah, once he's hiding the drinking from you, then he has a problem. He won't quit until he's ready to quit, so you need to have serious conversation with him. Once I realized my marriage was legitimately at risk because of my drinking, I quit. Until it reached that point, I kept on drinking, calming down anytime I got busted, but ultimately always returning to the alcohol. It took that reality check to spur me to quit and has been a big part of keeping me sober for almost 500 days now. Good luck. Comment 3, been there. As other commenters have said, Al-Anon is a great resource. For us, the lying/hiding went on for 5 more years before my husband did a detox at a hospital followed by an inpatient rehab. He's been sober since, but he could not do it on his own. It was not an easy road, but Al-Anon gave me a lot of perspective and helped me let go of thinking I could control his addiction. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and we will see you in the next video.